Hello, this is Broadsword again, and this is the second in my series on UI and add-ons that I use. Hopefully aiming for about half a dozen. These first couple are the major ones, and after dominoes in the first video we're now looking at shadowed unit frames. Shadowed unit frames are the most configuration hungry of the add-ons that I have, but that also means it's one of the most flexible and useful. So in the configuration here, SUF, you'll find loads of things that you can change. Unit configuration, I try as much as possible to make my changes apply to every frame. Some things you will definitely not want to do that with. For example, my player frame and my target frame are very similar, but there are a few slight differences. You'll see that I've got health percentage on my target, I've got a name, a few little things have changed, but in general they're similar. So majority of my configuration I have clicked on player and target and made changes so that we get identical things. Elsewhere, this is where it gets a bit scary. If we unlock all the frames, these are all the placeholders for my different boss frames, raid frames, party frames, etc. And you'll see that most of these are the same size. Again, that's because I've been using this global configuration to select all of the ones that it applies to and make my changes in, well, you'll see if I select a few of them. There we go. So those are all ones that are the same size, so you'll see their width and height. You can make this a more flexible to your needs, but obviously I like it as uniform as possible. Position I've set with absolute coordinates relative to the center of the screen wherever possible, so that, for example, if I move my player frame now, it will take a load of other frames with it. It's one unit together basically, and again on the right hand side the target frame is a placeholder for the other frames around it. You'll see when you start tinkering how it all works, and especially if you use my import, which I'll just show you here. If you go to General and Layout Manager, you can import a string, which is basically just a copy and paste, which I'll make available, and you can play with my setup. These frames are very minimal in their information. There's a lot of things you don't want to see on boss frames or target and things like that. And debuffs, very important one. I only really want to see my own debuffs on the boss targets or on the target if it's a player, because largely it's irrelevant what other people are doing to it. There are a few exceptions, but I've rarely run into any. So it helps me to track what I've got active on the target if I put those on. I have another tracker for cooldowns that also helps me track things like frost fever, which is one of my main dots. So that you might see that in one of my other videos, but the debuffs in general I keep to ones that I've applied. So that makes it nice and clean. You only ever see a row of debuffs grow from the bottom right upwards like that. You can see by the numbers, and the same principle applies to the raid frame. Now this raid frame is also the party frame, because the two of them are on top of each other, purely because I like to have the party frame and raid frame in the same place so that I know where I'm looking for different people. I have configured it so that if in my raid options a party is shown as a raid as well, so the two share the same frame, and I'm going to disappear those again. There's my target of target. Let's just show you a bit of there you go, there's the cooldown bars I was talking about, and my debuffs. So yeah, shadowed unit frames is quite complicated, and I'll forgive you if you want to stay away from it, but I think it's one of the best available for unit frames. Certainly as far as configuring it is concerned, once you get on top of it you can get some really good setups, something that rivals even things like the ELV UI, you know, the very professional full UIs that cover every aspect of the screen. But yeah, have a play, and have a play with the import when I make that available if you wish to. But you may well want a more traditional setup for the toolbars, for the frames, like instead of this vertical one you might want the horizontal, etc. But yeah, have a play, and I'll let you have a go with my setup.